Welcome back to Runnerverse. I'm Andrew, and in this video we're playing Chapter 3 of the Sinister 6 scenario for Marvel Champions. Again, we're going to be playing the Wasp, aka Mary Jane Watson, and the Gwen Goblin. If those don't make sense to you, go back and watch the first couple chapters to get into the scenario. But basically we got Wasp and Gamora here against the Chapter 3 villain, Mysterio, whom I have set up here. So it says, delving deeper into Oscorp, a maze of mirrors and phantom phobias obscure your path, confusing your perspective and forcing you to fight through a never-ending horde of hallucinations. The illusions begin to distort your sense of reality, eroding the shoreline between your rational, conscious self and a subliminal torrent of your basest fears. His main scheme here that we'll start out with is called Maze of Mirrors. And it says, set up, put a shifting apparition minion into play engaged with each player. So I have done that, and you can see the shifting apparition here. It's got guard, which means whoever's engaged with, which will be each of us to start out, cannot attack the villain. And when it's defeated, if it was dealt excess damage, the attacking player gets an encounter card into their deck. So that's something that Mysterio is going to be doing, is putting encounter cards into our discard pile, into our decks, and those can come out to haunt us later on. And on the other side of Maze of Mirrors, once we've set up, it says, each turn of a corner reveals countless copies of yourself. Shattered panes rebound seamlessly to whole, and every attempt to circumnavigate the labyrinth forces you deeper within. Defeating Mysterio may be the only means of escape. And when we draw or discard an encounter card from our deck, we deal it to ourselves face down, but then we get to draw a replacement card. So basically, that is how this Mysterio encounter is going to work. I haven't played it before, so we'll be learning about it together. It also says it starts with 2 threat per player. However, you can see that we have 6, and that's because of our campaign log instructions. So on our reputation track, we're currently at the 8th point, which means the level 1 and level 5 points are active, and that is how we got these shield upgrades for our characters, the compact darts for the Wasp, and Risk Navigator for Gamora. We've also got an Osborn Tech card shuffled into Mysterio's deck. And unlike our previous scenario against Venom, we're going to get to do an extra mulligan, but we had to place an extra 1 per player threat on the main scheme, which is why you can see Edge of Reality here is starting with 6. Or rather, not Edge of Reality, but the Maze of Mirrors is starting with 6. Edge of Reality is there for if this Maze of Mirrors gets completed, which would happen if it hits 8 per player threat, which will be 16. There are a couple other things going on in the encounter deck due to the setup rules for the campaign. But one of the other things that is most prominent here is that we're starting out with Venom in play as an ally under the Wasp's control. He's got 2 thwart and 2 attack, each with 1 consequential damage, a massive 6 health. But he's got this big downside, which is that we get an extra encounter card. That is a symbol normally reserved for enemy stuff, but here we have a hero card that is giving us a downside. But he also has this response that says after we reveal an encounter card, deal a damage to Venom and deal damage equal to the number of symbols in its boost area to an enemy. And I think that is to make up for the fact that it's to incentivize us to keep Venom around to get that ability, because we might be tempted to block with him during the villain activation step and lose Venom so we don't have to suffer from the encounter card. But this ability is saying, no, keep Venom around. So it's a tempting ability in that regard. I have drawn opening hands for each of our characters. I have not resolved mulligans, and again, because of our campaign status, we'll be able to mulligan twice. I think for Wasp, I'm going to discard these 3 cards and draw 3 again. Then I'm going to mulligan again with her, discarding those 2 cards. I guess that will work. Here I've drawn a bunch of Nebula-specific cards. I'm going to dig for the most powerful hand possible and mulligan those 2 I just drew, hoping for a double resource that I did not get. I still might be able to do everything if her ability goes off. I don't know if I mentioned the public outcry, but this has been in the previous 2 scenarios. Basically, this is a little goal for us to work on. We want to remove all 4 counters, 2 per player, to get 1 victory point, and we do that by defeating minions and side schemes. But until then, it's going to give us +1 threat per turn on the main scheme. Mysterio has 30 health, which is 15 per player, and when we defeat stage 1, we will go on to stage 2. When we defeat stage 2, we'll win the game. And we'll start out with Wasp here, Nadia Van Dyne, a.k.a. MJ, stung by a radioactive wasp, and with all of the powers a wasp has. We'll use her girl action. It says choose 2 cards in your discard pile with printed mental resources and shuffle them into your deck. So we're going to get 2 copies of one way or the other that we mulliganed away and shuffle those in, refill our deck a little bit after all that mulliganing. Then I think we will play Surveillance Team, which is a support card. It's going to have 3 uses, and each use would use as an action to remove 1 threat from a scheme. but I don't think we're going to use it yet because I believe Gamora is going to be able to remove all the threat from that maze of mirrors. We'll then use our compact darts we got as our shield tech as part of the campaign. Alter ego action, spend a resource to put 3 darts on it. So we're basically going to load it up, discard this foiled to pay 1 resource, and put 3 darts. Then the Wasp is going to change from hero form from alter ego into hero form. We're going to go tiny here. After Wasp or an event you play defeats a minion or side scheme, deal 1 damage to the villain. With these shifting apparitions, I feel like this is going to work out pretty well because she can zip around. So we're just going to use her for a basic attack to deal 1 damage to the shifting apparition. It was not dealt excess damage, so we don't have to worry about taking extra encounter cards. And since she defeated a minion, that ability will come into play, deal 1 damage to the villain, putting Mysterio down to 29. Compact Dart says after your hero attacks, remove a dart counter and deal 1 damage to an enemy. So we'll deal 1 to the other shifting apparition, which also means Wasp defeated, which I guess the darts defeated this card. So I guess I won't take that free extra damage on Mysterio. I'm not sure if that counts as Wasp defeating the enemy. It was definitely me, but it wasn't Wasp, it was this Compact Darts card. So we'll just not deal 1 to Mysterio there just in case. However, that was 2 minions defeated, so we get to remove 2 notoriety counters from Public Outcry, putting it down to 2 already. And I forgot to pay for my surveillance team. I had a Power of Justice to pay 2 for that, but I think I'm going to rewind that anyway. And I'm not going to play the surveillance team because Wasp's hand is kind of expensive, but I think I'd rather play Spider-Man Miles Morales. So this is going to be another ally to go alongside Venom, and when he comes into play until end of turn, we can give him +2 attack or thwart. And again, I think Gamora's going to clear off the Maze of Mirrors, so we'll give him +2 attack. To pay for that, I think I'm going to pay with these 3 cards. And we are stranding 1 card. I'm going to save the Pinpoint Strike, I guess. Then before Wasp ends her turn, we will attack with both Venom and Spider-Man for a total of 7, and they'll both get a consequential damage for that. And put Mysterio down to 22. And then it's Gamora's turn. She'll start out by using this action to look at the top of her deck. Take a look at Gamora's alter ego form, or the Gwen Goblin. Gwen Stacy, after suffering the Green Goblin serum. Look at the top card of your deck. If it is an attack or thwart event, draw it. And it is an attack, so we get to add that to our hand. Speaking of drawing cards, I'm not sure if we should have been able to use this Wrist Navigator. So it is a setup. This is our shield tech from the campaign. Start with it in play because of setup. It says after a minion or side scheme enters play, attach Wrist Navigator to it. So the question is, should it have attached to those shifting apparitions when they came out also during setup? I'm not sure. If so, that interrupt would say that when they were defeated or when the attached one was defeated, Gamora would get to draw a card. But I'm going to say no, just for the sake of I don't know for sure. I'm sure I'll make other tie-breaking decisions in my favor later on. Let's go ahead and switch Gamora to hero form, where she has finesse after she plays an attack, remove a threat from a scheme once per phase, and precision after she plays a thwart, deal a damage limit once per phase. And she has 2 thwart, 2 attack, and 2 defense. Definitely want to get out these Keen Instincts upgrade here that can be used every turn to give a wild resource for an attack or thwart. We'll pay with this card here, discarding that for 1 resource to play Keen Instincts. I think we also want to play Nebula, get another ally out. She costs 2, so discard these 2 cards. She has 2 thwart and 2 attack and 2 health. And after she enters play, we get to search for an attack or thwart event and add it to our hand. I'm going to grab a Clobber because we're just going to be using it as a resource. I'm going to play Acrobatic Move, costs 0. And attacks for 2, so we'll deal 2 damage to Mysterio. That also triggers Gamora's finesse, so we'll remove 1 threat from Maze of Mirrors. Then we can have her play Forward Momentum, which costs 2, so we'll pay with this Clobber we searched up and with the Keen Instincts. And that's going to remove 3 threat from a scheme, or 5 instead if we played an attack, and we did just now play an attack, so we'll remove 5 from Maze of Mirrors. And then Gamora's Precision will deal 1 damage to Mysterio, putting him down to 19. And then Gamora can attack for 2 with her basic attack, and Nebula can attack for 2, taking 1 consequential damage for a total of 4, putting Mysterio down to 15, meaning we've dealt half of his life in the first phase, which is nice. We'll end the hero phase by readying all our cards and drawing up to our full hand size. In hero form, we have 5 and 5 for Wasp and Gamora. Wasp already has 1 card which she'll save, so we'll just draw 4 more. And Gamora gets to refill with 5. Now Mysterio gets to act. First thing is the Maze of Mirrors will get 1 per player threat for 2, plus 1 from Public Outcry, so we'll add 3 here. And then Mysterio is going to activate against the first player. She's in hero form, so he's going to attack. He has an attack value of 1. May as well take a look at Mysterio. So he's got 2 scheme and 1 attack, both of which have that star, that asterisk there that refers to the Seeds of Fear ability. After you resolve a boost card during Mysterio's activation, place that card in your discard pile if it has the illusion trait. So we're going to be looking for illusions, watching out for those. But for now, he's going to be attacking for 1 plus a boost because he is the villain. Question is, do we want to block with anybody? I think we're actually going to have Nebula block that one. Even though it's Gamora's ally, she can jump in the way. She's only got 1 health left. So let's reveal the boost. It does have 3 boost icons, so it's going to be a total of 4 damage. Fortunately, that 4 damage is going to Nebula, and she will absorb all of that and go to the discard pile. And this is not an illusion, so we don't have to worry about Seeds of Fear. Then Mysterio will attack Gamora, and she's not going to defend it at all. And we've got 2 boost icons and a star, which is deal 1 damage to each character you control. So Gamora will take 1 from that boost effect, going down to 9. However, the 1, 2, 3 damage, she's actually going to play cross counter as an interrupt. When you take any amount of damage, prevent 3 of it and deal 1 damage to an enemy, and remove 1 threat from a scheme. And because it is attack and a thwart event, Gamora's finesse and precision will trigger. They're once per phase, not once per round. So we are now in the villain phase, so she gets to use them again. So it's going to be 2 damage dealt and 2 threat removed. We do have to pay for that. She's going to pay with this Return the Favor instead. And it's going to prevent all 3 damage. And then Mysterio goes down to 13. And the Maze of Mirrors goes back down to 1 from the cross counter. But now we do encounter cards. So Wasp will get dealt an encounter card, and so will Gamora. Wasp gets Weakness Within. So as a master of scare tactics, Mysterio uses even the slightest flinch for insight into his victim's phobias. Place 1 additional threat for each card in your hand. So it's going to be a total of 6 threat, 1 printed and 5 in Wasp's hand. And until we deal with that, we're going to get an extra encounter card every turn. So put 6 threat onto Weakness from Within. This boost card can go away. And Gamora gets Deepest Fears, Treachery, Peril. Players cannot help you. When revealed, discard cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of cards in your hand. If at least 1 identity-specific card was discarded this way, place a threat on the main scheme. If no identity-specific cards were discarded this way, take 1 damage. So she now only has 3 cards, so we'll discard 3 cards, and actually did not get an identity-specific card, so she's going to take 1 damage going to 8. So it looks like Mysterio is trying to run our deck out, because sometimes he's going to be putting illusions into our discard pile. And speaking of illusions, this boost card actually was an illusion, so this one will go into Gamora's discard pile. And now the faster he can run her deck out, the faster she will have to reshuffle it, and that card will be among those reshuffled. And when she draws into that card or discards it, the Maze of Mirrors will force her to take that as an extra face down encounter card. However, we may as well use Venom's ability. When we revealed that Weakness from Within as an encounter card, we can deal 1 damage to Venom with his ability to deal damage to an enemy equal to the number of icons in that card's boost area, which is 2, and we'll put Mysterio down to 11, which ends the villain phase, taking us to round 2. First player moves to Gamora. Let's see what she can do with 3 cards. Side scheme did come into play, so the Risk Navigator will attach to it. And before we do anything else, actually, Venom has an extra encounter card symbol as well, so that actually goes back to Wasp, who was the first player. And we get Advance the Villain's Schemes, which actually means he gets another chance at a boost. So 2 threat plus no boost icons, just the star there. It says reveal this card, so we actually get Deja Vu as well. We'll go ahead and add the 2 threat from the basic scheming, bringing Maze of Mirrors back to 3. And the boost ability on this card is just to reveal it, which means we have to resolve it against Wasp. It says Peril, so Gamora can't help her. Choose to either take a damage or place a threat on the main scheme, and then shuffle this into a player's deck. I think let's go ahead and add the threat. We've been doing pretty well with that so far. I think Wasp goes through her deck a little more slowly, so let's shuffle it into her deck, being careful not to see where that orange-backed card is among the deck of blue-backed cards. Now we should be okay to play the hero phase, again with Gamora. I actually have a couple good options for Gamora. One is to play Dropkick. We can pay with all fists, meaning we can deal 4 damage, stun Mysterio, and draw a card. And that stun might be nice, even though we're not super worried about damage right now. Preventing an attack means preventing a boost, which means potentially preventing an illusion. Or we can play Helicarrier and set up for future turns. But that does beg the question of how many more rounds we're playing, because we're basically investing 4 cards, 4 resources into playing the Helicarrier. It could pay us back right away, especially since we can reduce something for Wasp. So it's kind of like we're putting 3 resources into it. Will we be playing for 3 more rounds, aka 3 more uses of the Helicarrier, in order to make that worthwhile? And the way we're mowing down Mysterio, I don't know if we are. So I think I'm actually just going to skip the Helicarrier and play Dropkick. So I'm paying with these 2 strength resources and 1 from Keen Instincts, which is a wild, to pay for an attack event dealing 4 damage to Mysterio, putting him down to 7. It will also stun him, and it will also let Gamora draw a card. Also, it's an attack, so it triggers her finesse to remove 1 threat from a scheme. I think we'll do the main scheme on that one. And then Gamora is just going to do a basic thwart and remove 2 from weakness within, putting it down to 4. She does have 1 card left in her hand, the one she just drew from Dropkick. Unfortunately, she won't be able to play it this round. I was thinking she might be able to draw a card during Wasp's turn from the Wrist Navigator. Because playing this would not be an action, she won't be able to play Combat Training. So it'll depend on what else she draws, assuming that happens. But I think it is. So Wasp is going to start out with a Wasp Sting. Costs 2. Just pay these. And if she's in tiny form, deal 5 damage to an enemy. So we're going to put Mysterio down to 2. And that will finish the Wasp Sting. I think now we'll have Spider-Man attack for 2. So he takes another consequential damage. But that will put Mysterio down to 0. Meaning we move on to Mysterio phase 2. Let's see what that says. So his attack is now up to 2. It was just 1. Seeds of Fear is now Creeping Fear. So if it is an illusion, instead of going to your discard pile, it will go to the bottom of your deck. But he also says when revealed in player order, shuffle the top card of the encounter deck into each player's deck. So we have to do that right away. All right, so 1 for Wasp and 1 for Gamora next time we shuffle, or next time we need to draw a card. And Mysterio's phase 2 has 17 hit points per player, so 34, and then we win the game. After that, Wasp will change forms, and we're going to change to Giant Wasp form. So in case you were not familiar with Wasp, she has a 3rd form here, which is Giant, and here she has 2 thwart, 2 attack, and that can be divided, but we're not going to be dividing it now. We're just going to be attacking, but not until after we play Lay Down the Law, which is after you change forms. We'll pay with this card and remove 4 threat from a scheme because we're paying with a mental resource. Lucky me, I didn't even pay attention to the resource we needed, but it happens to be the right one. So we're going to take the last 4 off of weakness within, which means that's gone, which means we remove 1 from Public Outcry. We just need 1 more before we finish off Mysterio, and Gamora gets to draw a card from her Wrist Navigator, so we will shuffle her deck. Again, making sure not to look for this yellow-backed card in the blue-backed deck. And she drew an event, but it is one that is too expensive, so she's not going to be able to use her 2 cards left in her hand. And then I think Wasp will attack for 2 in her giant form. After she attacks, Compact Darts can throw another damage, so that'll be 3, and Venom will also attack, so that will be 6, putting him up to 3 consequential damage, and Mysterio down to 28. That was a pretty good hero phase. We're already on phase 2 in round 2. So let's ready all our cards, fill up our hands, play through the villain phase. So Maze of Mirrors will get 3 more threat, putting it up to 6. Mysterio will try to attack Gamora, but he's stunned. And then he will attack Wasp. I think this time we'll defend with Spider-Man. So that's 2 plus a boost of 1. So 3 damage to Spider-Man. This is not an illusion, so we don't have to worry about the Creeping Fear. And then this time I got to remember the extra encounter card from Venom. So let's see what we get for Gamora first. It's the Masterful Mirage. Attached to Mysterio, gives him +1 scheme. When you would deal any amount of damage to Mysterio, discard the top 4 cards of your deck instead, and then discard this card. That is a pretty powerful upgrade for him. Another card for Gamora. It's going to be her Unfulfilled Destiny. So she can flip to Alter Ego, and then choose to exhaust her Alter Ego and remove this from the game, or discard 2 events from your hand. I think taking the free flip over to Alter Ego is definitely nice. And I forgot that for the Masterful Mirage, but we'll definitely do it for this Unfulfilled Destiny with Venom. We're going to take 1 damage to use his ability and deal 2 damage to Mysterio, putting him down to 26. But hopefully we get another minion in our side scheme so we can finish the Public Outcry. And I guess let's just go ahead and exhaust Gamora. She's not too based on her basic abilities. So that'll be it for the Unfulfilled Destiny. And for Wasp, we get Shadows of the Past. So we've seen Nebula, which is Gamora's ally and signature enemy, come out in both of our previous games, but this is the first time we're going to see Wasp's enemy encounter set here. So we've got Beetle, so Shadows of the Past. You know, before we go too far, let's go ahead and do that again, which is going to be to have Venom deal 2 damage to Mysterio, putting him down to 24. And then the Beetle's going to come out from Shadows of the Past. Has Guard, it's going to be engaged with Wasp. And when Beetle is defeated, choose to either spend a strength resource or shuffle Beetle into the encounter deck. I guess instead of going to the discard pile, Beetle can come back. And 4 hit points with Guard is going to be a little bit annoying. Shadows of the Past also brings out this side scheme, which is Mother's Order, so that'll be an opportunity for Public Outcry. It says, Mother has sent one of her most devious henchmen after Wasp, hoping to recapture the Red Room escapee. As an additional cost for each hero to make a basic attack, that hero must spend 1 of any resource. Well, that's certainly annoying, and this is going to have 2 per player or 4 threat on it. The other 3 cards, however, from the encounter set are going to be shuffled into the deck here, which actually dilutes Mysterio's plan of hitting us with illusions. So that's actually kind of nice. And then Gamora's Risk Navigator is going to enter play. Based on the wording of Shadows of the Past and the wording on Risk Navigator, I'm going to say that when Beetle came out, the Risk Navigator attached to her. However, immediately after that, Mother's Orders came out and Risk Navigator will move to there. Again, I'm not sure if Risk Navigator is meant to move around to the latest thing, but it seems like just the way it's worded it is. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I believe that's all I need to do for the villain phase, so we can go back to Wasp as the first player. I think I'm going to go a little wild with Wasp and play one way or the other. So I'm conflicted about this because I know that one of the campaign log bonuses for the scenario is that we get a bonus victory point if there are no side schemes in play, and here I am bringing out an extra one. But I really want to draw the 3 cards, so let's see what Mysterio has to offer. And you know what? I kind of want an extra victory point. So I was tempted to get the community service side scheme that we got for this scenario. Each scenario in the campaign, you get 1 at random, and I haven't done any so far. So I wanted to search it up and do it, but it's actually already in the discard pile as a boost. So I found this one, this juicy one from the Personal Nightmare encounter set called Fool's Paradise. It also has a victory point on it. It's going to have 12 threat on it, but it gives each of us +2 hand size. We get an extra encounter card. We get an extra threat on the main scheme during the villain phase, and it is a crisis, meaning we can't thwart the main scheme. In fact, we can't even remove any threat from it, but I guess I'm a fool because I want the 2 extra cards. Let's try it out. So we're going to put 12 threat there and draw 3 cards. Oh, incidentally, we got this one, so this actually gets dealt to us as a face-down encounter card, meaning that will be an extra card Wasp gets to deal with during the villain phase. We do get another draw for that, so we still get our 3 cards. So I think what I'm going to do is have Wasp thwart, and we're just going to remove 2 from Mother's Orders. Bring that down to 2 so that we can then play Clear the Area. Although first, I think I will switch into Tiny Form. Still exhausted, but that's going to remove 2 threat from a scheme, and if it removes the last threat from it, draw a card. In addition, we are paying with Pim Particles, which says when you spend this, if you're tiny, draw a card. So we're actually going to remove the last 2 threat from here, getting rid of Mother's Orders, which also gets rid of Public Outcry, which earns us a victory point, which also means Gamora gets to draw a card from her Risk Navigator, and Wasp gets 2 more from that. Didn't get to use my compact darts, which I really was hoping to do, because I wanted to send 1 damage up to Mysterio to pop that Masterful Mirage, but that draw 3 was just too tempting. Unfortunately, we just haven't drawn anything juicy. I got my other one way or the other, so I could draw 3 more cards. Otherwise, I have a couple big plays in the Avengers Mansion or Ant-Man. I'm actually going to call for an action from Gamora. So you can do actions on each other's turns as long as it is an action. And Gamora specifically says action, alter ego here to check her top of the deck. And it is a skill. It is not an attack or thwart, so she doesn't get it. I was really hoping she would get a thwart event. Instead, she gets nothing. And we're back to square 0 here on what Wasp wants to do with her 7-card hand. So unfortunately, I think Wasp is going to waste a couple of those cards she drew, which is a bummer because we had to put this big giant scheme into play for it. But I'm going to play Ant-Man and pay with 4. One of them is actually Determination, which is after you spend this card, remove a threat from the main scheme. But because Fool's Paradise is a crisis, we can't even do that. We're going to play Ant-Man, who's got 2 thwart and 2 attack and 3 health. And while we are tiny, it's +1 thwart. While we're giant, it's +1 attack. But we'll go ahead and thwart with him for 3 against that Fool's Paradise. So that puts it down to 9. Because we're not going to finish it now, but we'll definitely want to finish it later. These 2 are just going to hang out in our hand. Question is, do we want to use Venom one more time? Or how do we want to use Venom one more time? Probably do want to avoid this encounter card. So we can either attack for 3, or we can use him to absorb an attack. Or we can thwart for 2. But I guess let's let him block for us. So we'll leave him there and then play Gamora's turn. We already used her action, so we'll just go ahead and switch to hero form. I'm going to play Acrobatic Move, cost 0, attacks for 2. Attack Mysterio. Oh, actually, I forgot that Masterful Mirage is still out. So I guess we just have to let him absorb that on the Mirage, which means that 2 damage is prevented. This is discarded, and Gamora has to discard the top 4 cards of her deck, which included this encounter card, which will now be dealt to her. So she'll get that during the villain phase. And the way this is worded, it says when you would draw or discard an encounter card from your deck, deal it to yourself as a face-out encounter card and draw a card. So even though she wasn't going to draw that, she still actually does get to draw, which is interesting. Guess that makes up for that fact that we wasted a little bit of damage. Next we'll play Set the Pace. Remove 1 threat from a scheme. So remove 1 from Fool's Paradise. Incidentally, that triggers Gamora's Precision to also deal damage, and when she played that attack event, that would have triggered Finesse to remove 1 threat. So we can remove another threat with Finesse and put Mysterio down to 23. We can't use Finesse or Precision again this phase. But now that we've played a thwart event, which is really nice, we can play Decisive Blow, paying with 1, and the second one from Keen Instincts here. It's going to say deal 4 damage, 7 instead if you've thwarted, and we did play a thwart event, so 7 more to Mysterio. Puts him down to 16. And then we can also play Spider-Girl, paying 2 for her. And after we play her, we can stun and confuse a minion. So Beetle will be out of commission for now. And then Spider-Girl can attack for 2, taking 1 consequential damage, putting Mysterio down to 14. So we will want to get rid of this Fool's Paradise if we want a victory point as well as Beetle. But with Mysterio at 14, I'm feeling pretty good about closing this out pretty soon, maybe during the next hero phase. Meanwhile, we do have to see what happens during the villain phase. So Wasp goes up to 5 in hand, which means she does get this another encounter card out of her deck. We get +2 from Fool's Paradise, so 7 cards for Wasp, 7 for Gamora. She's only got 3 cards left in her deck. The Maze of Mirrors will get 1 per player is 2, plus 1 more from the Fool's Paradise is 3, up to 9. And Mysterio is going to be attacking Wasp. But I think we will block with Venom to avoid that extra encounter card. So that's a 2 attack plus the boost of 1 is a total of 3. And because that's an illusion, it's going to go to the bottom of Wasp's deck. So 3 damage to Venom. He's finally gone. And then an attack against Gamora. She is at 8, so I think we'll just let her take the damage. We have a bunch of encounter cards coming. But that's okay. So 2 plus a boost of 1 is going to be 3, and that is not an illusion thanks to Beetle. So 3 damage to Gamora will put her down to 5. Oh, and this Beetle should have activated, but he was stunned. Then we get encounter cards, 1 to Wasp, 1 to Gamora, and because of the Fool's Paradise, that's another one for Wasp. So here we go, 6 encounter cards. And you know what? I just checked the player's hands to see if we had any events in reactions in preparation for these, and Gamora actually had another cross counter. So we're going to do that. Instead of taking that 3 damage, go back up to 8. And we're going to prevent it with the cross counter, paying with Audacity actually, which says when you spend it, deal 1 damage to the villain. So that's going to be 1 damage coming in at Mysterio as we prevent 3. Plus, cross counter itself gets to deal damage and remove a threat from a scheme. So that's another one off of Fool's Paradise. Plus, Gamora's Finesse and Precision will both trigger. So that's actually going to be 2 damage to Mysterio, putting him down to 12. Sorry, 3 damage, so putting him down to 11. 1 from Audacity, 1 from Cross Counter, and 1 from Precision. And then another threat off of Fool's Paradise. Again, that was a total of 2. 1 from Finesse and 1 from Cross Counter. So he's down to 11, but he's got a lot of stuff. So let's see, encounter 1 of 6 is Deja Vu. We'll let Wasp take 1 damage from Deja Vu, but then this gets shuffled into her deck. Unfortunately, we had put an encounter at the bottom of her deck, and now it's going to be shuffled in. But with our giant hands, hopefully we won't need to draw too many more before we end the game. Oh, and I didn't draw 2 extra for Gamora, so she's actually only got 1 left in her deck. Wasp's next one is Advance Villain Schemes. So he schemes for 2 plus a boost. Boost is going to be 3. I'm actually going to play Foiled. I don't know if this is necessary to spend a card. 2 on Mysterio plus 3 on the boost is a total of 5, which would put this up to 14 out of 18, which is not particularly dangerous for us. But just in case there's more threat coming, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. So instead it's only going to get 2. And that was the Advance. Next for Wasp is Assault. She's in hero form, so she is going to be attacked. This was not an illusion, so just discarded. Attacked for 2. Again, I think she can take it. So 2 plus a boost of 1. It's going to be 3 damage. And the boost ability says if an ally is defeated by this attack, take indirect damage equal to the ally's permanent cost. That's not the case, fortunately, so just 3 damage to Wasp, putting her down to 7. However, this is an illusion, so it will go to the bottom of Wasp's deck. 1 more for Wasp is going to be the Evil Doppelganger. 5 health. It's going to be a little bit more annoying if we want to clear out all the minions. Evil Doppelganger gets plus X scheme and plus X attack, where X is equal to the number of identity-specific cards in the engaged player's hand. So I guess since she would activate during the villain phase, that would depend on what you draw at the end of your turn. But assuming we end the game, this doesn't have guard or anything, it's just going to be an annoying 5 health if we wanted that bonus victory point for having no minions. So let's see what Gamora gets. Encounter card number 1 of 2 is Red Dreams, which actually goes to Wasp. She can switch to Alter Ego and Exhaust, or discard each card with a mental resource and take 1 damage, which would be more than half of her hand. So I guess we're going to have to Exhaust and get rid of that. Which is definitely going to impede us a little bit. We're not going to be able to use our compact darts, for example. 1 more for Gamora, and that will end the villain phase. Another Masterful Mirage. So our first damage to Mysterio will be prevented. All right, I think we came to the other side of that villain phase. All right, so let's see what Gamora can do. And out of all these 7 cards, only 2 of them are events. And 1 of them is Fusillade, which requires exhausting a weapon, and she hasn't played a weapon all game. She did draw the weapon. It would be kind of expensive to play it now. And I guess the Risk Navigator should go into the Doppelganger, which I guess will work out. So now we will play the sword. A little late, but here we go. So it's a 3-cost upgrade, so we're going to pay with energy for 2 of that, and 1 more. It says after she plays an attack event, deal 1 damage to an enemy. So put that into play. Then we will play Fusillade, attacks for 5, but you have to exhaust a weapon, and we'll pay 1 and 2 will be from Keen Instincts, and that 5 damage will go to the Evil Doppelganger. So the Evil Doppelganger is going to be defeated, which means the Risk Navigator will let Gamora draw a card. That does empty her deck, which means she's dealt an encounter card, and then has to shuffle immediately. Because she played an attack, she gets to remove 1 threat, so we'll put Fool's Paradise down to 4. And because she played an attack event, the sword lets her deal 1 damage. Let's just go ahead and deal that 1 damage to Mysterio, because that'll be prevented by the Mirage. And we have to discard the top 4 cards of her deck, which is fine. Then she's going to play Relentless Assault. She deals 5 damage to a minion if you paid using Strength. It gains Overkill. Unfortunately, I don't have strength, I can't quite play this keen resource, so I'm just going to pay with genius. I probably could have done that in a slightly different way and paid with keen instincts, which gives me a wild, but because I've already reshuffled, I'm not going to rewind. Hopefully I'm not off by 1 damage, but I'm going to go ahead and deal the 4 damage to Beetle, the 5 damage rather, out of the 4 required. Not going to pay the strength, so this will shuffle back into the deck, further diluting Mysterio's illusion count. We don't get to trigger Finesse again, but we can trigger Gamora's Sword for playing an attack event and deal 1 damage to Mysterio, putting him down to 10. So he probably could be at 9 because of the potential for overkill and Relentless Assault. Gonna waste 1 card in her hand, unfortunately. Again, probably could have done that better. But hopefully it won't matter because Mysterio's down to 10. Spider-Girl will attack for 2, I think. Yeah, so put Mysterio down to 8. I just had to check Wasp's hands to see if she's going to be able to do the rest of the damage or if I need to be removing threat or what. Second consequential damage will mean Spider-Girl is done. Gamora can then attack for 2, put Mysterio down to 6. And then going to Wasp, we're going to switch to Tiny Wasp hero form and then play Lay Down the Law. After you change forms, remove 3 threat from a scheme, or 4 if you paid with mental. We're going to pay with wild, and Pim Particles says if you're tiny, draw a card when you spend it, so we get another card, and remove 4 threat from the pool's paradise. So that is finally cleared out. We won't get +2 hand size, but we do get a victory point. And then we need to do 6 more damage. Well, this is a little bit awkward, but we can't do 6 more damage. So I guess we're going to play into the next round, and that'll give us more time to just clean everything up, I think. Might even be able to get that scheme down to 0 for maximum points. Play Monica Chang. She costs 3. We'll pay with Power of Justice for 2 and 1 more. She is 1 and 1 with 2 health, and she searches for a surveillance team and puts it into play. Wonder if there's one in the deck left. Actually do have one, so we get a surveillance team. Saw that earlier, but I think I rewound it. I'm going to close my eyes because I keep seeing orange cards in Wasp's deck. All right. And Monica Chang also adds an extra counter to it, so it's going to have 4 uses. We may as well use 1 right away. To put the Maze of Mirrors down to 10. Ant-Man will thwart for 3, putting it down to 7. I'm going to play Giant Help. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. 4 divided as you choose instead if you're giant, but we are not. We're paying with strength, double resource, so we'll just remove 3 more, bringing the Maze of Mirrors down to 4 threat. And I guess Monica Chang will thwart for 1 as well, putting it down to 3. And we're going into another villain phase. Not as quick as I thought, but certainly still not slow. Wasp does draw an encounter card as part of her hand refill, so we're going to get a couple extra cards, not as many as last round. Maze of Mirrors gets 2 more threat. Mysterio will attack Gamora, and I think she's just going to take it, so that's 2 plus a boost of 3. So nice big 5 damage to Gamora, and she doesn't have any damage reduction this time. Another attack against Wasp, but this time we will have Monica Chang defend it. And that's another attack, big 3 boost for a total of 5. So thank you, Monica Chang. Get a couple more encounter cards. And check out Gamora. We got Beetlemania. When revealed in hero form, Beetle attacks you. If no attacks, this may gain Surge. Beetle. So Beetle is back out, this time in front of Gamora. And an assault. So Mysterio is going to attack Gamora. And I think we are going to have to block that because of her being at only 3 health, so 2 damage plus another boost of 3 is 5. So that will take out Ant-Man. And that is it for Gamora's encounter cards. Wasp gets a shifting apparition, so a guard, a couple guards, and then finally manipulated mind. Treat the attached ally as a minion with blank text box. Attached minion schemes equal to the printed thwart, and it does not take consequential damage. When revealed, attached to the ally you control with the lowest cost. If you can't, this card gains Surge. So we just got rid of our allies. We just get another card, which is Induced Panic. Attached to your identity, you can't resolve triggered abilities in your printed text box. So I wonder if I actually skipped that last round anyway. Alter Ego action, discard an identity-specific card at random to get rid of this. So I guess Wasp just can't use that triggered ability, Small but Mighty. I think we'll be okay without it. She gets to start out the round. So I think Wasp will change to giant form and attack for 2 against Beetle. And when she does so, she'll trigger her compact dart, spending the last charge on that to deal 1 to the shifting apparition. So no extra damage, just 2 on Beetle. She's also going to use Surveillance Team, so 1 counter from that on the Maze of Mirrors. And then see what Gamora can do. She's got some cards, but we're going to wait. The Wrist Navigator definitely should have been on somebody. Forget which one. I think it's the apparition, but we're going to go ahead and attack anyway against Beetle to finish her off. So either one, that'll finish off the Wrist Navigator, and Gamora will draw again. We're going to call for an action from Wasp, and she's going to play Giant Help, the hero action event. We'll pay 2 for that to remove 3 threat from a scheme, or 4 if you're giant, which she is. And then Gamora will play Decisive Blow, aptly named, spending 2, including Audacity, which says after you spend it, deal 1 damage to the villain. So that'll put Mysterio down to 5. The Decisive Blow itself is going to deal 4, putting him down to 1. And because of her sword, after she plays an attack event, deal 1 damage to the enemy, which will put him down to 0. So looking back at our reputation track, at the bottom under it says conditions, we get X for X victory points in the display. So we're going to get victory point for Public Outcry and 1 for Fool's Paradise. No minions in play, that's going to be 3. No side schemes in play, that's going to be 4. No threat in the main scheme, that's going to be 5. Fewer than 1 per player accelerations in play. We didn't even get any. We didn't go through the Mysterio deck a single time. That's going to be 6. And no defeated identities, that's going to be 7, which is almost as much as we got from the previous 2 combined. Now, I will say it took me an extra round, which gave me plenty of time to clear out everything and get ahead of the game on Mysterio. I mean, I definitely had a strong early couple rounds, but if I had been able to finish him off in the previous round, I would have, because I really don't like artificially extending the game in order to try to meet more conditions. And I don't love the game design that encourages you to do that. I mean, the fewer than 1 per player acceleration tokens kind of mitigates that, but because I was still at 0, I could have kept just stringing him along for multiple rounds until I was able to get all the conditions. But I didn't do that intentionally. I really would have beaten him if I could, but I was just a few damage points off. So as much as I do think this is a cool reputation track condition system, I also think that it encourages players to artificially string out the game, which I don't like. But nonetheless, I did max it out here. I mean, theoretically, I could have gotten more victory points from the victory display, but otherwise, I'm very happy with 7 that I accomplished in a pretty legit way, assuming I didn't make any egregious play errors. So with 8 from the previous 2 plus this 7, that's going to put us up to 15, which means we will now get access to alternate aspect cards. Now, Gamora already has access to alternate aspect cards just from her skilled tactician ability. I am using that a little bit, but I didn't even use it as much as I could have. So I'm not sure what extra cards I'll be adding. Definitely will not be attack or thwart events for Gamora, if anything, because she already had access to them and I didn't use it. But maybe there's something else from some other aspect that she would like to use, and then Wasp will have that option as well. But in order to pay for that, on the other side of things, at that 9 slot, if you're reading there, it says setup. Each player has to search the encounter deck and discard for a minion and start the game with that in play. We've also hit that next level, which says we get to flip our shield tech to the next side. So I guess we can go ahead and take a look at that. So this is Wasp's compact darts, but we will now be playing with the other side. Not sure why it doesn't say setup on this side, but it says after your hero attacks, remove a dart to deal 1 damage to up to 2 different enemies. And it has that same alter ego action of spending a resource to fill it up with 3 darts. So 1 resource gives us 3 darts, and each dart gives us 2 damage split among enemies. So that's super nice. And then Gamora has that Wrist Navigator that we kept using to draw cards when we defeated enemies. That's now going to be the Enhanced Wrist Navigator. And it does the same thing, moving around to the newest side scheme or minion. But when it's defeated, we draw 2 cards and then discard a card. So unfortunately, we don't get a full extra card, but we do get a little extra option at the cost of running through our deck. So most likely I will be able to, in the next scenario, hit that next level at 17 at the very least, with only 2 condition points. But there's a question of whether I get 6 more points in order to get that next tier where I'd get a helicarrier in play at the start of the game. I don't see myself getting 10 points in the next scenario in order to get the symbiote suits. So I guess my goal will be 6 points to get the helicarriers. I'll have to peruse my collection for options for the next scenario to see what Wasp and Gamora would like to add. But let's check out the end of the scenario comic here. It's actually no text. It's just Venom, Ghost Spider, and Spider-Man Miles Morales facing off against the Sinister Six. Oh, and I guess I also am supposed to count the total number of illusion cards in all players' decks and record that number. So Gamora had 1, and Wasp had 1 as well. This one, she also had this card, but that one's not an illusion. So it's going to be a total 2 for the Waking Nightmare rules. Otherwise, there's no real text for the end of the Mysterio scenario, other than that after we've escaped from his maze of mirrors, I suppose, the Sinister Six emerges for the next battle. So stay tuned for that one. Thanks for watching. Subscribe so we can get more subscribers, and bye.